Hello and welcome to the Give Me the Remote podcast. It's episode 58 on Monday, 30th of March, 2020. We are self-isolating in stage 3, pandemic mode. And I'm Sheridan and I'm joined by my co-host, John.
Hello, Sheridan, and hello to our listeners. Quite a lot has changed in the world since the last time we spoke to you. And it's the effects on streaming devices and content are going to be profound. There's a few things we can tell right now. One is we're never going back to easy travel. You're probably going to have lots of health documentation and quarantine in your future if you want to travel, and that's going to affect how TV's made. I don't think they're going to be able to jet cruise around the world the way they have up until now.
It's definitely going to slow down production for
Well,
a
production's
while.
basically ceased in most shows, so for the next 6 months
So
we're
you've
good.
got really good content, and right back when you want to go outside, it's going to be shite.
Yeah, well, good reason to just go to bars, I guess, when they're open again.
I was thinking a run in the park.
Yeah, when was the last time you went for a run in the park?
I've got great plans for my COVID isolation.
Right, I see. Okay.
All right.
So, what show do we want to talk about?
Well, let's start off with Bojack Horseman. What do you call it? 6B?
I think that is what it's called.
Is
yes.
it?
I've made a lot of mistakes. But I look back at that other Bojack and I think, who is that?
Yeah.
The last season, which was
last
one of
half
those
of the last season, because they did the
annoying
first
splits.
half and then had a hiatus and then never really bothered to finish the show and came back with a sloppy mess.
You didn't like it?
I was so angry with it.
Oh, were you? We've not spoken about this.
Look, without wanting to get too spoily, they just squibbed the ending completely. They let Diane get fat, just as a screw you, Diane. And then it just sort of whimpered out with, Bojack just deciding that he was going to be a quiet horse in future.
Endings for these kinds of shows,
They're hard to land, I give them that.
Very difficult.
But when they had that break from the first half of the season, which was setting it up to be something really interesting and climactic, and then I think the ending they did was just too bleak and they got talked out of it.
It's kind of funny, though, that the whole show is so referential to sitcoms, especially 90s
Literally
sitcoms.
has shows within the shows, yeah.
And
you think they deliberately made a crappy
no
ending?
90s sitcom ended well. Although there was some references to Mad Men in this final one as well. Another show which didn't end very well.
Yes. Anyway, I get, it's a classic thing, do you want to start watching Bojack if you've never watched it? Yes, you do. It's absolutely brilliant. It's funny in ways no show's ever even attempted to be funny. And at the same time, it does it with, at some levels, a really broad, raucous humour as well.
I think there's some really good episodes.
Isn't it funny that horse is having sex with a cat,
Yeah. I think there's some really good episodes in this last season, though. It is a bit all over the place, though. But I think there's some good episodes. I actually didn't even mind the Diane episodes.
The talent isn't too bad. The talent is still there and is very good.
They're trying to deal with such a weighty subject matter, but basically the whole show is about depression and addiction.
Yeah.
And but they really do try and nail it, not in a superficial level. They go deep.
Also, I don't think Aaron Paul had enough to do in this season.
True. I felt like
why would you leave a talent like that on the bench? But yeah.
Maybe he didn't want to. I don't know.
Yeah. Anywho, so I mean, it's a hard thing to talk about Bojack in that sense that, as I was saying, if you haven't ever watched it, you should watch it. You'll like it.
Well, it's really hard to talk about it too because there's quite a spoiler. There's a couple of spoilery.
Yeah.
The big moments in this season you can't talk about because it would spoil things.
Yes. Okay. Shall we talk about Bojack more generally now that we have completion?
As the whole show. Haven't we reviewed the whole...
We've reviewed bits and pieces. Well, we've reviewed individual seasons, and those comments remain valid. But I think it's interesting that this has spawned a lot of shows called by the creators of Bojack Horseman that have not been very good.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
And that's a shame. Obviously, who was a creator? Did you have an EP credit on a season, or were you in the writing room or were you an actual creative driver? These things have always been a grey area in Hollywood.
Yeah. There would be a lot of people too on animation.
Yeah, and the show had weaknesses in a lot of its things. Like there were whole episodes that you really didn't need, where they'd just do a one-note joke about fish people not being able to talk. Which is particularly useless to us as there are no such thing as fish people. I know some people love that episode.
I actually quite like the absurd stuff.
Yeah, it was just... sometimes the absurdness really, I felt, dragged on.
Well, there was some episode in this one called The Horny Unicorn.
That was actually one of the funny ones.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. See, sometimes they nail that absurd stuff well.
Yeah, and I mean, bits and pieces of this season were very funny. The stuff about being dependent on rehab. Because it's a nice place where everyone sorts things out for you and you have nice activities and... there's a lot of great stuff. Well, they never really tackle... I mean, all through the show, they never really tackle how Bojack pays for anything.
Well, he pays for it from making heaps of money doing the show from the 90s.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's that much money in a show from the 90s 20 years later, but...
yeah.
Not that level, Particularly as he wasn't a writer on the show, he would have just been an actor.
He was a very big star, though, is
the idea. Yeah, I get that. Anywho, do you have other things you want to say about BoJack Horseman season 6B?
It's just one of those rare shows that is like they only come along every few years.
And I'm sad that there won't be any more.
Same.
I guess maybe that's why I'm sad. If you're gonna have such a wimpy ending, why not just keep going? Maybe the talent hall wanted to do other things.
Yeah, I'd say so. What are you going to give it?
I'm giving it 2 stars for season 6.
Oh my god.
Yes.
I'm giving it 4 stars.
There we go. We are finally at odds. Ha! You hack. Okay, what's next?
Probably the best thing that came out of COVID-19. Tiger King.
There are more captive tigers in the U.S. than there are in the wild throughout the world.
People are nuts, man. They're all crazy.
Now...
I think its full title is Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. So, you might have seen this guy, his name's Joe Exotic, on a Louis Theroux episode about dangerous animals.
I'm sure there was a Dirty Money episode that did this stuff as well, but you Googled it. Okay, Louis Theroux, right?
It's a Louis Theroux. Anyway, so he has like a big cat wildlife park in, somewhere in like...
the South.
Yeah, somewhere very hillbilly.
Oh, hang on. Do not go mixing your hillbillies with your Southerners. Very different people.
Really? I thought his whole thing, though, was hillbilly chic.
No, he's Southern.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I'm a bit ignorant to the cultures of America. Anyway, and the whole thing is just this weird story about 3 owners of big cat farms, not farms, sanctuaries.
The problem being that they do essentially
all
become
sort of farms.
Yeah.
And how they either like and or hate each other, but primarily centered around Joe Exotic, who, and this is not a spoiler because it's right from the beginning, is now serving 22 years in prison for various animal abuse charges and conspiracy to commit murder.
Yeah.
And it is just a beautiful, beautiful binge watching.
It's you can tell the documentary makers just knew they were onto something amazing, and then when everything falls apart and the major players are all talking about what they said to the police and things, and only learning through the documentary makers who said what to the police, and that interplay is really
halfway through
something.
it. I was actually like, I think this is fake.
Yeah, right.
Because it's so good.
Yeah.
And then I just was like, no, but it can't be because I've seen that guy, Joe Exotic, on Louis Theroux. Anyway, it is not fake. They're all real. And it's just the most magnificent soap opera drama, and they're just so surreal. Like, they're like all polygamists, and
it's all
they're
manner of
just
freaks and weirdos.
crazy lifestyle.
Not that we're kink shaming at all. It is just interesting, and I don't mean this as any sort of judgment, how people with all these, let's call it fringe activities, not illegal, not immoral, just fringe, tend to congregate together and go down a weirdness plug hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that definitely is going on here. But, you know, it's a good story, and of course it's got lots of tigers in it, and, you know, I've seen some...
That does actually, you're right. There is something about that makes it visually very palatable.
What, the tigers?
Yeah, because a lot of the cutscenes, when there's nothing really going on, is just a picture of a tiger walking around, and who doesn't want to see that?
Yeah. But it does highlight as well that there are something like 10,000 tigers in the US and only 4,000 in the wild.
I honestly cannot believe that that's allowed to go on.
Well, this is what happens when you basically live in a failed state.
Well, I mean, but we also live in a...
Sorry, Americans, and I know we've got quite a few American listeners, but your country looks a lot like a failed state everywhere else.
We also, though, in Australia have a culture of, because we're a big friggin' island, of not bringing in introduced species, because, I mean, there's a few very famous instances where we've done that and it's turned out horribly.
Yeah, I mean, there are a hell of a lot of camels and wild horses in the Australian outback, though. And,
we're extremely regulated, though, on animal ownership.
Yes.
Like, you can't own a monkey or a tiger or any, like, you can't own
but we're not allowed to own guns either. We're not a free country.
Yeah, like, you can't even own a possum, though, like a native animal.
You're definitely not allowed to own native animals. Yeah.
So I think culturally that idea is...
No, we've got our dogs and our cats, and that's our lot. Maybe our horses, if we've got lots of money.
It's strange to me that you could own 250 tigers.
Well, I mean, in the UK, you used to be able to buy lion cubs at Harrods.
Oh, yes, I know.
And they actually did it because they'd then sell the lion food. And the only place you could buy lion food was...
What happened to all those lions, though?
There's now big lion parks on old country estates, and people pay a lot of money to drive their cars through it and get their cars jumped on by the lions.
It doesn't sound... I don't think a lion would like to live in the British weather.
That's the choices it's got, you know?
These people, though, except for Carol Baskin, who has...
I'm not sure she's quite as pure as she tries to come
No,
she's
she's
across.
definitely not. But she's sort of put out there as that she tries to save the big cats from the farms.
The mills, yeah.
So she doesn't do this. But the others, they're, like, really play with those tigers.
Yeah, but I mean, they do have, you know, being frequently interviewed, the woman who lost the end of her arm in a tiger's mouth. So they do show there are consequences to playing with tigers. And of course, I love all the other gnarled tiger handlers who are just like, well, she must have done something wrong.
It's just crazy. It's actually, I mean, it's so American.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real insight into American culture.
Mm-hmm. I would say, when you say American culture, America has many cultures. And
even, like, socioeconomic...
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of the people that work on Joe Exotic's farm, they're all, like, ex-prisoners.
Well, they're what we'd call carny folk around here, but yeah.
No, they are. They're ex-prisoners, and they, like, work there because they can't get proper jobs.
Yeah.
And
yes.
it's like they're in a bit of a cult.
But again, that's what I'm talking about with this, you know, gravitation that happens in fringes. You know, people who can't get jobs anywhere else have to take a job at the Tiger Zoo, and then they bring whatever, you know, madness that saw them excluded from the rest of the workforce with them. You know, we speak magisterially as extremely privileged people. I've spent a fair bit of time in the Deep South, and none of the characters in this seem particularly unlike people you'd see in a bar. I didn't feel it was made up. I knew these people were out there.
Well, I think it was the episode though where they start talking about Carol Baskin's ex-husband that went missing, and that it's
no big deal to anyone.
Well, it looked for a while like there might actually be an expose that she fed him to tigers, and I was like, this can't be real.
Yeah, well, life is a very strange place, and the American South is stranger still.
So what are you going to give it?
Oh, I think this is a 4.5 star.
I'm giving it 5 stars.
Wow. Okay. All right.
You got to get on that, and you'll just binge it in one day. I binged it in 24 hours.
2 days though.
And I was sick one of them.
So what's next?
JoJo Rabbit.
Be involved in such activities as games, ambush techniques, and blowing stuff up.
I don't think I can do this.
Was? Of course you can.
And I don't know if, because it's only just come out on digital release, which is why we thought it was a good one to do right now. And I cried quite a few times in this.
Did you?
I did. And
I wasn't laughing at
it really
you.
moved
I was
me.
just laughing because it was cute.
And it was just astonishing. I mean, okay, so JoJo Rabbit is the fictional tale of a young German boy in World War II with an imaginary friend who is Adolf Hitler.
That's a pretty good summary.
Yep. And it is something that only a First Nations person could tackle without people screaming.
Yeah.
Because you can basically say, culturally, I'm completely outside of this. And here is my take. The other thing that I think is very clever is is willing to show the monstrous nature and the dehumanizing nature of the Nazis while making light about an imaginary friend Hitler. And he has to have that balance or he's in trouble.
It's very clever. And there's a Jewish girl living in JoJo's wall.
Yes.
And that friendship is just lovely.
That friendship is the driving thread. You can't have a driving thread. The binding thread of the movie.
And it does evolve in a non-forced kind of way.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of interesting evolution of the characters. The German captain who tries to train young JoJo in the Hitler Youth.
Sam Rockwell.
Played by Sam Rockwell.
Very good character. It's like this drunken reject from the SS.
Well, he's a wounded veteran. That's why he's not in there anymore. And he has a beautiful little bit of speech at the start about the completely preventable ambush that saw him lose his eye. And that character, I don't want to spoil it because the ending is just a remarkable piece of near opera. But it's just brilliant and some real development of that character. He does things that you weren't expecting, but then that opens up his motivations. So. That's very well done. It's got Rebel Wilson in it, and it's not bad despite that.
I was going to say, she actually plays a very good character in this. Funny, restrained, definitely like that German, what do you call them? Frauleins. It
reminded me a lot of some of her early career stuff working with Paul Falzon, where she played a pretty straight character in very funny situations. When I say straight, I mean straight in a comedic sense, not anything else.
I mean, she is a good comic actress. I think she's just been shoved in a lot of bad films that are badly written.
I think she's been typecast in a few things lately as well.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, in this, she's still typecast in that she's the matronly, big blonde woman.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, I don't think she's asked to do that much, and I think she executes it okay. Scarlett Johansson is JoJo's mother.
Yeah, she actually plays quite a believable housewife.
Housefrau.
Somewhat disgruntled with the ordinariness of her existence.
Oh, yeah, and there's a lot of shadow and light with what she may or may not be doing when she's out of shot.
Yeah.
But that's well done. And I think it's very clever of Scarlett Johansson to be moving into these more mothering roles because she's not getting younger. Well, she's not going to do another movie where she plays a teenage girl, is she? No. So, in terms of development, I think this is good and clever. And, I mean, she's still gorgeous.
Yes.
And then there's Taika Waititi himself playing Hitler.
He's very funny.
Again, it's one of those things a Maori man can sort of play a Hitler, where if obviously, Bruno Gantz kind of rewrote the playing Hitler rulebook with Downfall, but he pulls it off, and it's good. And also, like at the very end, American troops commit a massacre, and they show that quite clearly. So he's quite willing to say no side's completely pure in this. There's no good guys.
Yeah, it's based on a book, which I've not read, called Caging Skies. I wonder how close it is to the book.
I mean, they did credit the book in the movie, so you'd think it's some closeness, but yeah. Anyway, in this current times, and particularly, there's a lot of stuff about confinement and having to stay in the house that really
That's true, actually.
resonated very hard now.
Yeah.
People are going to listen to this podcast in 2 years' time and go, "What are they talking about? What was
I
happening?"
think we'll all remember this. Living through history.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, I guess that's all I have to say. Other than pretty much this is a must-watch. Like, if you enjoy listening to us talk about this stuff, you must watch JoJo Rabbit.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm actually a bit sort of... we haven't reviewed Pandemic. No, Parasite, God.
Yeah, we have. We reviewed Parasite on our last one.
We did, okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do really like Parasite, but this was such a good film. I think this was one of the best films of last year.
I just think the Hitler stuff would be why it couldn't have gotten up. Yeah,
it's probably just a bit too quirky.
I just think the Hitler stuff, there's elements of the Academy that just will not vote for anything that normalises Hitler.
It did get nominated for Best Picture.
It got nominated. And
he did win Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars as well,
yeah.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah. Boy, I just
can't, everything he makes is so good.
I think Taika needs to be thinking maybe he should be like the next Walt Disney and start theme parks. And and start a TV channel, because I just want to watch stuff Taika Waititi does constantly.
So good.
Yeah.
So what are you giving it?
5.
Alright, I'm going to give it 5 as well.
Take a star off JoJo Rabbit.
The little boy too is really good.
Oh, masterfully played. But Taika
really
Waititi
nice.
actually has one of his skills, aside from being a very good actor and a genius writer, and a astonishing director. He's very good at working with children.
Yeah.
Remember Hunt for the Wilder People?
True, yeah.
Yeah. So he's kind of annoying. He's just got all these talents. Why can't he be bad at something?
I know. I wonder if he's married.
Good luck in getting in that line. Hi, Taika. I've got a degree in film studies.
I make a podcast. I gave you 5 stars.
Okay, that's us to a slightly early end this week. Times are strange, and we're being strange.
We're thinking of doing a pandemic episode.
Yeah, we want. Let's schedule that in for the next one.
We need to watch more pandemic movies.
I think we've got 3, don't we?
No, we've got to get more. We've got to get more.
And zombie movies basically count as pandemic.
I don't want to put them in the mix though, because I think that a zombie movie is just too outside of the realms of what we're dealing with right now.
No, I mean, we're not going to review Carriers, say, but that really does blur the line of zombie film versus. And many zombie films, it is a disease.
I think Carriers is as borderline as I'm willing to go.
Okay, sure.
We are going to review that too.
Sorry?
That would be in the mix.
Yeah.
It'll get 1 star, but...
Will it?
No, just spoiler alert. I don't know what it'll get. I haven't thought about it yet.
Okay.
It's not going to go very well, though.
Really? I actually thought the second half of that made it an unusually strong one. First half was gash. Okay, so thank you, folks. Do please keep listening and liking and reviewing us on the podcast app of your choice. And do please leave comments and emails at email to gmtrpodcast@gmail.com. And if you've got any suggestions for pandemic movies you'd like to see us talk about in the next episode, get in touch soon. Okay, on that note, we'll bid you adieu, and please do stay safe and stay inside unless you absolutely have to go out.
Stay safe and inside.
Keep watching shows.
Thanks,
and
folks.
listening to podcasts. All right, thank you.